Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person, and today I want to talk to you about Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Um, and if you're just jumping in now, I've been going through all of the Black Ops games right now, at least up to this point. So I'm trying to catch up on those. So I already did a review on the first Black Ops, and since this is a sequel, I'm going to assume that you either know about Black Ops or you've seen my review of that before this. And there's also a written one of this in the description if you'd like to see that instead of this, or in addition to this. It's your call. Um, but yeah, I'm playing this. It is an Xbox 360 game. Played on my Xbox Series X. I don't know if that makes much of a difference. Also, for the footage for this as well, I'm probably just going to show you footage from the campaign since it's a lot of the other stuff is going to look kind of like that anyway. It's just easier that way. So hopefully, if that's a big problem, you can let me know, and I'll try to split up a bit more pieces of footage. But it's hard to get anything shown if I'm splitting my review up too much into too many pieces. You should get the idea. So Black Ops 2 is, like I said, the sequel to the first Black Ops. This takes place primarily in, well, it kind of jumps back and forth. There's the main story that's going on right now is in the year 2025, which, holy crap, this year. Coincidence? Yes, I didn't know that going into this. This is the first time I've played this game, unlike some of these other games I've played before, so I forgot that. I guess I didn't forget. I didn't forget that. I didn't know that. Is what I'm trying to say. I said the opposite of what I meant. But I won't start over because real people make mistakes. So most of it's happening in 2025. You're trying to chase down this bad guy, terrorist guy, Raul Menendez. He's the big bad guy here. He's the mastermind behind all the stuff going on, and you're trying to stop him. With a typical kind of Call of Duty campaign gameplay and artistic flair of the cinematics and whatnot. And there's those missions as well as some missions that are like flashback ones. Because in 2025 you're actually playing as David Mason. You're the son of Alex Mason from the first game. But the flashback scenes are like in the 80s, and you're playing as Woods, who is the partner of Alex Mason. You're playing as his character instead, and following some of the stuff that went on then. And a lot of these things are trying to build up around some of the backstory and lead into what kind of drives Menendez, this bad guy. And what's driving him for the most part is that essentially like his sister at a young age was like kind of like scarred in like a fire, and then eventually gets killed by the military. And so a lot of this is fueled by this revenge, wanting revenge for his loss, and trying to kind of throw the world into this kind of chaos and spark a big old war. He's trying to really start a second Cold War. Is his main kind of goal to do, and so you have missions where you're using old weaponry and stuff in the previous, the 80s one. Then you have more futuristic stuff in 2025. I guess it's present day or whatever, both now and for that, in the games world. But it's weird because it's in the future. When the game came out, it came out in 2012. So it was the future in the past. And so this actually introduces some new parts of gameplay to the campaign mode that we haven't really seen before. So some of that's just kind of more futuristic weapons and attachments and things. There's lots of like sections of like tech that gets introduced here. You're controlling like these drones that are flying around, they're shooting and stuff. You can take control of some of these like big walking tanks. There are cloaking devices, like cloaking camouflage. There's attachments where you can get like a gun that can adjust the amount of penetration of its shots. You can get a gun that has like this millimeter sensor that shows you like stuff, kind of like scans stuff around the environment and kind of like pulses around. You can also see people like through walls and stuff. So there's a variety of new things being introduced here, and those kind of play into it mostly in the, like I say, in the future sections of that. They're introducing these things. Also, another part of this is that in the campaigns, you can actually, before you start your missions, you can actually, as you unlock things, you can customize your loadout as you go into them. So you don't have to use whatever the basic weapons are when you first go into them. So you can choose those, before you go in and alter your experience. Whether you want to do that just so it's something you're used to using, or you want to make a better time, or give yourself more of a challenge. It's just an option that's there for you. Um, and yeah, there's also another new thing is that there are certain things, certain actions you'll take in here will actually impact not only different events going on in the story, but also can totally change the ending of the game. There are multiple endings here, and those will, what happens is based on what you're doing. To be fair, I've only played one ending. I didn't go back and try to find all the differences in endings and things, but I didn't notice that it seemed like a particularly like bad ending or anything that I did, and I don't know that I did everything optimally either. So I at least have confidence that the endings are probably all mostly good, but I can't say for sure. I was throwing that out there. But that is a new thing. You also have a bit more freedom just in the missions as well to kind of go off to the side and do other things and find some secrets to access, which usually give you bonus equipment and things that make stuff easier for you. And I just get some different objectives, so it's a little less linear than other Call of Duty games before it. And there's also another set of missions, a totally different type of mission. They're called Strike Force missions, and they're only available for a certain amount of time, usually a few campaign missions, for you to try those. And usually, again, the success or failure of those missions can change the outcome, or just totally skipping of those missions will change the events and outcome and the ending of the game as well. So in Strike Force missions, you basically have this ability to start with like this big task view, whatever, a tactical view of an overhead where you can command units. They'll give you a little tutorial on how to do it. You can command units around to move around and do things, to go to certain places, and you can just select certain units, do different things. Before you even start, you'll even get the breakdown of the scenario of like all the objectives and what's going on and what you're trying to do. And also during this, you also have the ability to swap into any of those units as well. They're not like, again, they're not main characters or anything. You're swapping into, like whether you're going into a turret or like a tank or just, different like foot soldiers. You can go down there and select them and just go in and do stuff. Do it personally yourself. So you have the option of doing it, all one way, all the other way, or some, mix of the two, whatever is most efficient for you, whichever you enjoy more. Those are things you can do in there. So those are a little bit different type of mission that's going on. And ultimately, the whole thing is, basically, your whole thing is you're trying to stop Menendez. Particularly, you don't want Menendez to succeed with what he's doing. You don't want him to get away with anything, and you don't want to have a war start out. You don't have a war break out here. So that's really what you're trying to avoid. And then we've got the Zombies mode. And in Zombies mode, you've got... that makes a return here. You still have the classic survival mode with you. You also have some new stuff, though. Like, you have some updated weapons for this game. There's like some new perks. One of them I know is like a tombstone soda, where basically like you get that, and then if you get downed, you have the option to like instantly kill yourself. But then it'll drop a tombstone down there where you died, and then the next round, if you survive with your team, you survive that, you can go and pick up that tombstone, and then you'll get back all of the perks and weapons and things you had before you went down, other than that tombstone soda. So there's that. There may be more that I just didn't access or whatever. I didn't play tons of the zombie mode either, but I did play all the maps or whatever. There's like 3 in the base game. There's 3 maps. A new mode, though, they have because they have a couple new modes. One of them is Grief mode, which is like an 8-player game. So it's 8 of you, basically 2 teams of 4 versus the zombies. And essentially the idea is that whoever survives the longest wins. You can only revive people on your team. So you could choose to work together to a point, but... the whole thing is that if one team totally goes down and the other team survives that wave, then the team that lived wins. You can actually win this mode. So that's the idea behind Grief mode. And then there's Transit. And in this mode, basically, since, like I said, there are 3 maps here, this mode actually connects all 3 maps with these roads. If you try to just walk on these roads by yourself, just run through them like there's a bunch of fog over them. And in the fog, there's these new enemies here called denizens. And they will jump up and start attacking you, basically like on the back of your head, like a a backwards face hugger. Basically, you'll have to knife a bunch of times to get them off of you. So they're just spawning out in those areas. So they're fairly dangerous areas. But if you want to have safe travel between areas, you can also just go onto this bus that periodically stops by in these different places and goes around the map. You can do upgrades of that bus to make it stronger and fight off zombies and things as well. And there's a slew of other things here. Like this is the mode where you're gonna find a bunch of like find these different little parts to like machines, and you can turn on power to different places, and the abilities to like you have these characters, and you're finding different like lore in the zombies lore. This is where you're gonna find little events and Easter eggs and little lore pieces like that are gonna be in this mode, connecting all of these maps in this huge giant map. So that'd be the new stuff. There is mostly that. And then there's the online. And so for the online here, some of it is pretty, standard online stuff you'd expect from Call of Duty. From the previous game, they actually have dropped the COD points, and said when you're progressing, you just unlock stuff through, you leveling up, or by weapon challenges. Using a weapon enough, you'll unlock stuff for that weapon. They've just kind of gone back to that model. As such, they also got rid of wager mode, but they kept all those mode types, like the gun game, sharpshooter, one in the chamber, and sticks and stones. They've moved those into a section called like party games, so you can just play those modes that way. You also have the ability now to play those offline as well, locally, if you'd like. Since there's no wager match thing anymore, you can do that. And you can actually do custom games now to change more parameters and play instead of combat training. You can do that and play some of these things offline. Some of them can have bots, not all of them can have bots in them though. So be aware of that. But another like new thing here. I mean, you also have the ability to kind of like more customization options for putting in like shapes and letters and things on your emblems, which is always nice when you see people saying horrible words with the letters they can spell things out with, and making penises. You got it's been Call of Duty. You're gonna get people saying faggot. You're gonna get people making penises. It's par for the course. These are probably the same people that were playing this when it was new when they were kids, and they're just still doing it. I don't totally believe it's not those same people. But you have the ability to do that. There's also a couple of new things I think are particularly interesting for this. I guess are notable. I guess one of them are score streaks, which replace kill streaks, and they're similar in that like basically you pick these three different things, and you need to get points to unlock them in the series of stuff. So like like some of them cost more points. Obviously, you can't have two of the same thing. Something costs the same amount of points, but now instead of just kills counting towards those things like kill streaks, here it's like kills, assists, destroying enemy kill streaks and stuff, and just doing anything that's related to the main objective of whatever mode you're playing. Those points all go towards this. So you'll be able to build up that by focusing more on doing like not just getting kills, but also doing other parts that could also be important for playing the game. And also with these, they do reset when you die, but also they roll over if you keep getting them while you're alive. You get your third one, then it starts over, and it'll go back at 0, and you start working towards your first one again. And actually, your kill streaks themselves, or your score streaks themselves, actually can give you points towards more score streaks. But the thing is, like, you can't stockpile them, so be aware of that. If you have, like, I got a UAV, and then I got all my other things, and it starts over, and I got another UAV. I don't have 2 UAVs, because I haven't used that one yet. I just replaced my old UAV. It kind of works like that. The other thing that they do is that they have the new Pick 10 system for your create a class, which means that basically between, like, your weapons, attachments, your equipment, your perks, and there's a new like thing of like different like buffs, like changes to your character called like wild cards. So they have a variety of effects you can apply. Each of these things basically takes a point, so you can have a total of 10 things selected. And the idea here is that it gives you more freedom to kind of customize things while still balancing the game. Is the concept. So you can have like a lot more varied gameplay styles without it going like too crazy or broken in some direction. Was the hope. And again, most of the normal modes you'd be thinking of here, they make a return, so I'm not going to run down a list or anything. But I only could play so much on multiplayer because there's only so many people playing, only so many modes are filled in. And that's kind of where I guess we can kind of start there to say that the downsides to this game are... Actually, no, I should start with the positive, shouldn't I? I just explained everything. I forget how to even do my own reviews. We'll get back to that, though. Just know there's not that many players. You're surprised by that in 2025. That there's only so many people on Black Ops 2. So we'll start with the good, because that's how I'm supposed to do it. So for positive stuff, I think the campaign is pretty awesome. The campaign was really really good. I didn't really care much for the Strike Force missions, but they were optional, so I didn't have to do them. I didn't want to. I also never felt like I was like screwing up the story. I didn't know there was multiple endings until I looked later, and it was like, oh shit, actually these things will affect the story and the ending. I did not realize that, which is also how well they did this. Is that I had no idea what I did wasn't like what I was supposed, like, not what I was supposed to do, because it all just kind of blends in and still works well. I'm like, oh, that's actually really cool. So I think I really appreciate that, and also the fact that the way they work the campaign also is just like, I mean, the core gameplay obviously it's Call of Duty. It's very good. They made very very good core gameplay here, so it continues to be good. But in the campaign, they pace it really well with things of like, cool story things. I feel like they did a better job of like Menendez is a somewhat sympathetic character in some ways. You at least he feels like he has good motivations. You understand him, and I wasn't I wasn't as crazy confused on what the hell's going on with the story or what are they trying to do. I feel like they spent more time, exploring some of the stuff and letting us kind of sit in it, so we could kind of tell like, oh yeah, this is the story and what's happening, and this is interesting. I get it. I'm in it now. They've had more attachment. But they pace it well too with like, the tech stuff. They don't just have a bunch of like weird set pieces. Anytime they're throwing in stuff, there's like, like sneaking around, some stealth stuff. There's here's some using your gadgets, or like here's like, these gadgets and whatnot. They work these in ways that are like they can use them multiple times, or they're really cool segments. For using stuff. It doesn't feel super like gimmicky set piece. Like I'm just here for this ride. I'm actually still playing when they show me something cool. Like, oh yeah, here's a cloaking thing to sneak around guys, or here's like the millimeter sensor thing, like which I really like. The millimeter sensor and like the little target finder thing they have. You can use those like highlight targets for you. Love those attachments for guns. Really really good for me whose eyes are terrible. Those are really cool additions. And like, yeah, they just have like cool things they throw in there. And they also then throw in like the older missions in a more classic style of like the flashback ones where you don't have all that fancy stuff. There are only a few times where it feels a little gimmicky, so they did a really really good job with that. And also, I never felt like everything felt like very organic, and like it was fun. I never felt like a thing was like, this is not only like weirdly shoved in here, but also annoying. I don't really have any instances of that here, so that was like very good. I didn't feel like any part was like drug on too long. I think they did a really excellent job with like pacing, giving you new fun stuff to play around with without it being like, here's a bunch of gimmicky bullshit to keep you occupied to fill out our campaign. Really really excellent job. I think they executed this super super well. And the online, I also thought, well, the online was really good. Because like, again, like core gameplay very good. I think the maps are very well balanced maps. They're like, they don't feel like heavily weighted towards like somebody winning all the time or anything, but they're also still visually interesting, and they're not like just like a bunch of super, here's a completely symmetrical map for everything. So they did a good job of making stuff like interesting that way. I think the maps are very good. In my not competitive player experience, I think the maps are very good. The pick 10 system, I think, is a really really cool too. Again, I like the idea behind it. I don't know like how, like, again, not a competitive player, I don't know how like balanced it actually is, but it does feel cool to be like, yeah, select these different things. Like if I don't need to use like this perk, I don't need to use like this piece of equipment, screw it, I'll get this other thing I'm actually going to use. Do I need a secondary weapon? Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't even need that, right? And I think that having those extra options and things is really cool. And having more, again, like being able to play with bots still here is also good. I also really like the score streaks. I really like those too. That addition is really good because you can just, you're then more focused on like actually doing the game mode you're doing. You're not like playing capture the flag and like farming kills like lone wolf style. You're actually, I should still help out my team and do what we're trying to do because I'm gonna get more points for doing that, which will help me get my score streaks. So it feeds into like actually playing the game the way you're supposed to be playing the modes. I think those are really really good additions. They said something about like, I've heard that this has like skill based like play, like with their, like they'll try to match you with someone of your rank, but obviously now that's not really something you can, you deal the hand that you're dealt because there's only so many people playing. And zombies is fine. There's a few new maps to play. I think the survival mode is still good. And I will say that I think this does give you a lot for people who have like played the shit out of the previous game, who played Black Ops and are like, man, I played those zombies a ton, but I want more. I think this is going to give you a lot because there's, like I said, like the transit thing, it's like huge. There's lots of things to find and do and experiment with. It's pretty massive, and I think this is not even saying anything about any DLC that I don't have. There's a lot for people to do. So I think that, like, yeah, generally speaking, I do think the overall package really of this game, there's a like everything here is like good, and I think that that's going to be really appreciated by players, um, a lot. But that being said, particularly, I didn't really like zombies that much in this one, and I think it's because I hated transit mode the most, probably. I mean, grief mode was silly because, like, just give us an 8 player when we're working together, or give us more ways to sabotage each other. It feels like a half-ass attempt at either thing. You see, it doesn't. It's a middle ground that I don't want. It's just a silly mode. Um, but like a survival mode is fine. Transit, the problem with this, particularly this, is that like in general, but especially with transit, is that it's really easy for you to get separated in this gigantic level, and it's easy for you to just get like blindsided and knocked down by a couple of zombies out by yourself somewhere, and then you can't get revived because you're a million miles away from anyone, and then that's how you end up losing, as everyone does that. And I feel like that sucks because when I think of zombies, I think of like, yeah, you're like holding up, you're trying to like keep these windows boarded, and you're trying to like find choke points and keep them down, and you want to play until you get overwhelmed by the zombies and lose. That's how you want to go out. You don't want to go out that I got lost somewhere and somebody like blocked this really tiny hallway, and then I just got fucked out there and nobody could save me because I was a million miles away from anyone. And that's how everyone died that round. That's why we lost. Like, no one wants to go out that way. And also, there's so many areas, like, it's so open. It's easy to run around zombies and stuff. So it's really like you spend most of your time just running away from everything, and rather than actually doing stuff. You're either running away from the zombies or you're running to an actual thing to do, instead of focusing on actually trying to kill the zombies, because zombies are just more of like an obstacle to go around than to actually deal with, which should kind of be the point. There's lots of places where they can just kind of crawl in that you can't board up anyway, so the boarding windows is pretty pointless in this, other than like the first room or something. After that, it's like, well, we're out here now. It's like, I can board up windows, but they can just run in through like 5 other things just out of nowhere, so it doesn't really matter. I found that really irritating, and I thought that, like, in general, that made it like worse than the previous zombies. Maybe just different in some ways, but I feel like in that respect, I feel like it was, at least in my opinion, worse. It was less enjoyable for me that way. But I also probably would prefer it to be simpler anyway. That's me, even though I did play the shit out of those games. Now, the other thing, then, I guess, for like negatives here, if we're going into it, for online, again, online is very good, but the main issue I have with online, I think, is that you can't do bots for everything. Only certain modes can have bots. And that means that, again, all those cool party modes or whatever, those special modes that I really liked, you still need real people to play those. That's annoying. Why can't I just have bots for all of these? I think that's a missed opportunity, and it's kind of sad. I really wish that was just a thing, so I could play all of these whenever I want, even if I'm by myself. That's kind of a downer. And also, again, like I mentioned earlier that I accidentally started doing, and I shouldn't have, there's only so many people playing online. It's less of a problem with zombies because you don't need as many people to play zombies. But for this, it's like, well, yeah, for online you kind of do. So I could play matches in like, team deathmatch, free for all, some search and destroy, and maybe some hardcore. Other than that, it was pretty rare to find a room full. Maybe if you're lucky on the weekend or something, you'll find somebody in one of these other modes. But diminishing returns, that's just kind of the state of the game this long, afterwards. It's a miracle that it's even still online again anymore. But be aware of that. And I guess the only thing for the campaign is, like I mentioned for some of this, I guess, is that, like, I don't like that there's multiple endings, in the sense that I don't like that I don't just necessarily get a canonical ending. I think I'd probably prefer that it just have the one story that I go through, and that's the story of the game. But I think it's handled well enough where it's not a huge issue, and I think some people will like that aspect of it. I just think it's probably better for, like, if you're talking with your friends, like, how did you go through it? What happened in your game? What ending did you get? Than, like, replaying it multiple times with, like, 90% the same thing. And I will say some of the gimmicky bits there. There are a couple things, like the glider things you use, or, like, the sticky hand on the cliff things. Those parts do feel gimmicky, because, like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. You don't use it other than to, like, have a little cutscene that I'm in, and that's it. So, like, they don't do it, like, perfect, even if they do it really well. And Strike Force missions, like I said, I didn't really care that much for those. I really preferred to most of them I just ended up just playing as one of the foot guys and just told all my units to go where I was going. And I didn't really respect what they wanted me to do with those missions. I probably made those harder. And I'm sure on higher difficulties you probably can't win doing that, but I played on like regular, so it wasn't it wasn't a huge deal for me. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of those missions either. But still, they're not bad. They just like weren't really what I was looking for, really what I was into. So overall, like I kind of hinted at already, kind of said, I think Black Ops 2 is a fantastic game. I think it's an excellent package of content. Multiplayer might be a little skimpy these days, but you can still play it. You can still play with bots, and it's still very fun. It's very good, with some interesting new systems put in here that just make it maybe the best online and actually maybe the best campaign so far of the Call of Duty franchise. I'm still kind of trying to fight with my nostalgia to see if I like Modern Warfare 2 in some of these respects. And while Zombies mode let me down, I've heard a lot of people love this. So if you're like a hardcore Zombies player, you probably will like it. I just didn't care for it. But having all of these in here and having them be decent, at least like Zombies, I think is at least decent. This might be the best package of a Call of Duty game so far. I am wildly impressed, and I'm starting to see why people are saying that this is awesome. I thought the campaign was fantastic, which is something that's going to always be there, and that's probably enough to be like, it was that good. So yeah, very very good. Definitely easily the best Black Ops game I've played of the two Black Ops games. So like that says much. But yes, definitely really really good. Again, I can't recommend you go out and get this for full price. Why Black Ops 2, a game from 2012, is still $60 on the eShop here on the Xbox store is stupid. I don't know why it is that, but I do know that it is stupid, whatever the reason is, because it should be cheaper. So wait for a sale, get a physical copy at a lower price. It's probably not worth $60. And again, I'm sorry I don't really do the DLC thing. I think a lot of it is geared towards multiplayer and zombie stuff, and I don't want to spend even more money on these like that. It's kind of gross at this point that not only have these not gone down, but that they're because if it was like $60 for everything, that'd be one thing. But they want $60 for just the base game, and they still want full price for a lot of the DLC too, unless they're on like a sale. So, anyways, yeah, Black Ops 2 was really it was fucking great. Okay. And this is probably up there in one of my favorite ones now. We'll see where it lands by the time I finish all the Call of Duty games. I don't know if I'm probably not going to make like here's me ranking the Call of Duty games video, but like, this is right up there. It's easily top 5. It's really vying for that top spot with Modern Warfare 2 in my head right now. We'll see how strong nostalgia is versus how good this is, especially with my first impressions of this. Duke it out up here. What do you guys think of Black Ops 2? Like I said, I've heard a lot of people say a lot of great things. A lot of people, this is their favorite one. They think it's the best one. What do you guys think? Especially in terms of the Black Ops line as well, but even just in terms of the whole series. Very curious to hear your thoughts on that. What did you do in the campaign? What was the kind of like ending you got, or did you go for all the endings in that? What do you think of the zombies? For you big Zombies fans out there, maybe you're more of a fan of it than I am, I guess, at this point. What did you think of the Zombies mode in here? I'd be interested to hear your input on that. And I mean, for the online, I guess there's not much to be said because there's not much left to play on it. But at least it's still there and you can. And anything else you want to leave in the comments and talk about, whatever, that's fine. That's fun. Let's do that. And next we're going to Black Ops 3, which I'm worried about because from everything I've been hearing about it online, it sounds like Black Ops 3 is probably still good, but it's just not, like, better than this, and that's not too bad. I will be getting the Xbox One version though, because I hear the 360 version does not have the campaign at all. That sounds miserable. I mean, I guess it's better than not having anything if you still had a 360 or a PS3, but man, that sounds rough. So I'm looking forward to playing it though, even though it's probably also going to cost me $60 in 2025. I don't think this game got it right. I don't think we have all these things in 2025. Do we? Do we? If you're in the military currently, tell me if we have all of those things. See ya.